I like the silence, the pregnant pause. I can almost hear you. I can lip read. This is like Marceau, you know, the nice little hand gestures. So the voice will come on soon, I'm sure. Because we had this working perfectly before. Can you hear me? Yeah. I can't hear you. Since we've gone live, I can't hear you. No. I don't know what's going on. You told me that technology wasn't working for you today. Yeah, I think you've actually bluffed yourself. I will check my end, but I'm sure we've got it right. Let me just check my end. Let me go to settings, sound.
Ta-da,
No.
I'm back.
I can hear you back again. You've come back from the world. There you go. See? Well done.
I'm back.
Not
Oh
gonna
my
give you the
gosh, what a day it has been.
I know. That's all part
I
of life.
just thought we were
experience.
having the Leon show tonight.
No. You know what? It's interesting. I mean, that's life. You know, I find it very interesting. People can get so caught up in, and everything has to be perfect and everything has to go right. And, you know, life happens. You know, there's another phrase, shit happens, you know, so you just go with it. And at the end of the day, we're all human. That's why we're here on this planet. You know, if we were absolutely perfect, we wouldn't be here. We'd be on another planetary system somewhere doing some other life or some other mission. But we're here now. So just run with it.
That's exactly. And I did say to you, my electronics have been playing up today, and it's nothing I can do.
See, what did you set?
My husband used to tell me that I was the technology queen.
Well, you set the intention. And technology obeyed. Oh, is that what you want? So, power of your words, the power of intention. We've spoken about that before. You said it's causing you problems today. So I said, well, if that's what the case is, we'll give her some more technical problems to deal with.
Well, my technology works perfectly tonight.
Good. So is mine. So let's go with it.
Welcome, everyone. Wasn't that a fun start to tonight?
It just shows you that we are human and that we can have a laugh and we don't take life too seriously. Reminds me of Anita Monjana. I don't know if you know Anita Monjana. Some people might know her. She was a lady who had a major a near-death experience. And I remember meeting her personally, it will be a number of years ago now. And one of the questions that when she came back, people asked her what it was like on the other side. You know, what's life's about? And she described it. Actually, I can probably use this jacket. She said, life is like a massive, great big tapestry. And if you look at it, we are just this one little thread. When you come closer and closer and closer and closer and closer to it, you're one little thread. And all these other ones are all the interaction of all the other people you're going to have in this world. And all these ones are the ones that are running parallel with you. And she was 2 words she said, don't take yourself too seriously. And I thought that was a great, simple thing. Don't take yourself too seriously. And we can all get caught up in that, you know, and are we doing the right thing? And is this right? And then I think you get to a point, I've noticed this last couple of weeks where I'm sitting out having breakfast in the morning sun, just hitting on my face, which I love it, especially at this time of the year when it's autumn. And beside me, there's these carnation bushes and there's just these little buds. And I just see them slowly growing. And the thing, what it is teaching me or passing on is patience. Everything happens in divine timing, not my time or our time, but in divine timing. And that seed has everything it needs, as long as it gets water and the nutrients from the ground and the sunshine. It has everything it needs to grow into a full flower. Doesn't need any interruption from us or any encouragement. It will happen naturally. It's a normal cycle of life. And so are we. And the same thing, I had a guy today that I did a reading for. A beautiful young man, really, really lovely man. And what he was struggling with was, was he on the right path? Was it right? And I, by asking him the questions about what he was doing, his whole face lit up, because he's making a major difference in the world with the people he's working with, which is young people. And what I loved about this young man is that when he spoke about what he does, his whole face said lit up. It came from his heart. And the point I was trying to make to him, you're already making a difference now. It's just that he wanted or felt like he needed to be doing it on a much, much bigger scale. And I think we can all be guilty of this. And you've taught me that too, by the way. I remember, before technology and all this came down and COVID hit, if someone said to me, "Oh, Leon, will you talk in front of 100 people?" I'd be there tomorrow to do that, in terms of my work and what I do. Well, we're doing it now, but we're sitting at home in the comfort of our own home, and there's people who are tuning in, and we're making a difference that way. It doesn't have to be some great big grand stage. That's not, it is for some people, and we all have our own little mission and our own piece of the puzzle and our own part to play. And I think sometimes we forget the ripple effect of what we do for people in our own community, in our own home, but as long as we come from our heart. And that's all we can do. I think if we make a difference to one human being, our life has been worth living. I think that, to me, we forget that sometimes.
Exactly. I just had a thought pop into my head.
Yep, I know you do sometimes. They come in often.
I was going to say, unusually so for this time. No, when I was in Brisbane the other week, part of the conference that I did on the Sunday morning, they did a yoga session with a meditation sort of mixed in. And right at the end, she read something out, and guess who it was by? One of your favorites.
Wayne Dyer?
Rumi.
Oh, Rumi. Absolutely. I had a lady today talking about Rumi who we had a reading for. I have all my oracle cards up here, and I said to her, just pick one deck. She picked a Rumi deck. She never heard of Rumi. But, the poem, it was so appropriate for her, so appropriate. Actually, we might even do a Rumi poem tonight, mightn't we? I think that's already set the scene. And look at it. And look what it's doing, sitting right beside me.
I think there is.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
Of course it is.
Of course it's right there. See, I've got the right deck out as well.
Yes. Well, that's always the case. We're ready for that one. Yeah. I was thinking today, we were chatting about what to share, and I'm going to talk, I don't know, well, let's see where this goes. And your audience, if they actually want to put a little message of what they'd like to hear about or what they'd like maybe discussed or any clarification. But what I'm going to do is the moment, I feel like I need to share, and I know could be controversial, and I know it may not be received in the light that I share this, but there's a lot of people that are struggling at the moment by what's the truth? What is the truth that's happening through what we see in the media, what we're seeing through alternative media, what's not being shown, what is being shown? And so many people I feel, are lost. There are many people that are stuck in, and you know what I mean by the third dimensional world and the fifth dimensional world. So many people are stuck in the 3D world. For the last 12 months or even a lot longer, we've seen relationships come to an end. We saw the lockdown. We saw people not knowing how to deal with that. They've had to really face their own issues by living in a confined space with their family. We've seen relationships separate. And people have been really challenged in that regard because they're operating outside their comfort zone. And how do they deal with that? And the benefit for me of this whole process has been, I have followed now for quite a while. I think this is the beauty of not working full time. I've been able to do a lot of my own research. And what do I trust? That's hard. That everyone's got to make up their own mind of what they believe or what they don't believe. But I suppose for me, I've been fortunate enough to run into a guy on the internet last year in March, so over 12 months ago, by the name of Dr. Charlie Ward. And some people may know him or heard of him, but he's an English guy that was just walking along the beach, and he decided to put some of the things out that he knew because of the contacts he had with some politicians and diplomats and all those kind of people that he'd been connecting with over the last 4 or 5 years as he travels and transfers money around the world. And there was a guy called, and pardon me for looking away because I've got my notes here, a guy called Lee Dawson who saw what he was doing and took over type of helping him get his information out there. Now, very quickly, he got shut down by YouTube and Twitter and all that stuff. So he started his own channel called BitChute. Now, for those that have heard of it, they'll understand. But those who don't, BitChute is an alternative media outlet as opposed to YouTube, which seems to be censoring so much information that's going out there. And we've often heard now of people that have been shut down and, shut down for a month or more because of the information they're putting out. Now, Charlie, what he does, he interviews many, many different people, or he allows many people on his channel. And as he said, some of the people who speak on his channel, he may not agree with what they're saying, but he says they have the right to speak their truth. And he says it's up to you to work out what you want. Now, a lot of information is coming out of America. We've seen America is massive change that's happening there. And some people might say, well, what's that got to do with us here in Australia? Well, in one respect, it has a lot to do with us because what happens in America happens around the world and happens here. So he has a number of people that I have followed since I started following him. And I'd like to share some of the names for you. And people may feel free to write these down. And for me, I found the ones that connect with me, and then the ones I just, that doesn't matter. I'll leave that one away. But there are ones that have got some really good intel that they have the connections to get that information out. So if people are looking for that, this is what I'd like to share. The first one, as I was just giving you, is Digital Warriors Production. Digital Warriors Production. And the two people that connect with that are Lee, L-E-E, Dawson, and David Mahoney, M-A-H-O-N-E-Y. Now, I will put a caution with Lee. Lee is very, very forthright in his language at times, but they've done massive research, and he will give you the links of the research of where to go and find the information yourself. And I think this is what it's about, is not telling you what to believe or what not to believe, but showing you where to do your own research to form your own opinions. Another one is called Ann Vandersteel, V-A-N-D-E-R-S-T-E-E-L, and another one called Mel K, M-E-L, and just straight K. Those two girls have some incredible information and connections. Mel K in particular, her connections are massive. Another guy called Simon Parkes, P-A-R-K-E-S. He again has some pretty big connections. Robert David Steele, as in S-T-E-E-L-E. He's had some pretty big work in terms of, not a spy, that's not the word, but working for, I don't know if he worked for MI5 or MI6, but he had big connections. So these people that normal people would not get the access to have been speaking on Charlie's channel. Some of the doctors that Charlie has been interviewed, what they've been sharing, that the main media will not put out there. There's a doctor called Andreas, A-N-D-R-E-A-S, and I'll spell the surname, K-A-L-C-K-E-R. There's another one, Dr. Mike Yendon, Y-E-A-D-O-N. There is a couple, another one, Dr. Judy, as in with Y, and I'll spell this next one, M-I-K-O-V-I-T-S. And again, when you start to, these people have got, I would call, a lot of credibility, and more of the doctors are speaking out. Lynn Wood, L-I-N-W-O-O-D, some people might have heard of him. What he's putting out is quite profound. And the last one is Nicholas, and I'll spell his surname, V-E-N-I-A-M-I-N. Now, in particular, Charlie interviews Nicholas and Mel K once a week, and they give a pretty good summary of what's happened over the last week and what things that, because Charlie has connections with the military, he's used as a spokesman to put information out. And the way he describes it, he says that we're in the middle of, he calls it World War III, which is control of our consciousness. The media are fighting for it, and there are other medias as well. So in that context here, he describes it as we're in the middle of World War III, but we're not firing any bullets. So I just leave it at that, and I'll let you do your own work. And next time we come on, if people want to open up that channel, we may talk about it, we may not. But go and do your own research to form your own opinion if you choose to. But you're definitely not going to get the information through mainstream media, because it's all controlled, it's all put out there to put you into fear. So I'll just leave it at that and put a full stop at the end of that.
Perfect. Sounds good. Sorry. Talk a little bit more about the 3D, 5D thing.
Excuse me. I know this is a production, but I'm getting hot.
Oh, so many jokes right now.
Oh, thank you. All right, 3D, 5D. I'll put it as simply as I can in this context. 3D is where we're still caught up in fear, where people are in that whole space of not trusting their intuition. They're in this space of fear, of grief, of anger. And I'm going to give you some words. I use this chart that I have. It comes from a guy called David Hawkins, from a book called Power versus Force, Map of Consciousness. I absolutely love this. I've been using this now for 10 years or more when I'm coaching people, and I'll often look at it and ask these people, where are they at in relation to what's happening in their life? And what happens is, whatever frequency you are at, and particularly in a 3D, you connect with people at that same frequency. And I think if you were, for example, people talk to me about being in a relationship. They want a different relationship. And I say to them, until they do the inner work, you're still going to attract someone at the same frequency at where you're at. That's the hard part. So if you're in a space of grief or in fear or apathy, you will only attract people in that same frequency. Where if you come from a space of forgiveness, of understanding, or love or reverence, you're going to connect with people at that frequency. And I think if you can look back through your life, and I'm a bit older than probably most people who are listening, I can look at where I was at certain stages of my life. And as you become awakened in one respect, you start to see the bigger picture of what those experiences, those relationships were about. So I often say to someone who wants to go into a new relationship, and they'll talk about their past relationships, and I'll say, well, have you dealt with all the emotion that relates to that past relationship? Meaning, have you forgiven the person? Have you forgiven yourself? Because the two go hand in hand. And some, you only have to listen to their words. Some are still angry with that person. Well, they haven't done the inner work to forgive them, to let them go and understand why they were in that relationship in the first place. Because every relationship will teach you something. And often we see people who've been in one relationship, they go into a second and a third, and it's just a duplication of the same relationship, same archetype. And the way I describe it is it's like a movie. You wrote the script of your life. You're the main player, and you're having you're playing with somebody else, meaning in the script. Now, that main person, the main other actor with you, if they fall sick or whatever, you then have another actor to come in to play that role, the understudy or someone else. So in the role that you play, I hope I'm expressing this right, in the interaction that you have with somebody, you are to learn a lesson in that. And once you get it, the next relationship, you'll get tested on that. And then you go, I know what this relationship's about. No, thank you. Or if you haven't learnt your lesson, 6 months down the track, you go, oh, here we go again. I've done the same thing. But that's the awareness. The awareness is understanding what the relationship's about. So I'm going to go through a couple of words here. And if people are listening and have got a piece of paper, I suggest you write some of these words down that relate to you. And what it's going to do is give you an understanding of where your vibrational frequency is or has been and where it's going. So some of these words might stand out quite predominantly for you. and I will clarify that. So starting at what I would call low frequency, and again, there's no judgment in this, please, because we've all at some stage of our life been in these spaces. Why? It's because we're a human. We've all the relationships, all the emotions. And one thing I've learned through my work as a teacher and as a life coach and doing psychic readings is everybody has a story, no exceptions. Everyone has their challenges. Everyone has been almost to the bottom of the pit and have worked themselves out. So I'm going to go through some of these words. Feeling miserable, shameful, humiliation, despising. Now, if you've been in that kind of state, and I mean, even if just the physical thing about in shame, your whole body shrinks, you're closing in on your heart, you can't breathe properly. That is a really, really, really low state. Then you might be in a state of guilt or blame. You might be in a vindictive thing, but it's very destructive to yourself to be in that space. There might be apathy, despair, hopelessness. And people have been that in what's happened over the last 12 months. We think, well, what am I going to do here? Well, how do I move my life from this particular space? Again, it's a very low frequency that you're actually in. The next one is grief. Now, and I see that with, say, someone who's died. There's nothing wrong with being in grief, as long as you don't stay there. It's understanding what your grief is about. And I remember coaching someone recently, and I said to this particular person, I said, what are the emotions that you want to press down, suppress? And I've gone to her, please don't suppress them. Bring them out. Put them on your hand and talk to that emotion that wants to be heard. And when you actually acknowledge it, because all it does, it wants to hurt. To me, the emotions break down to two real emotions, fear and love. You can take any one of the emotions that we've been dealing with, and they will break down to those two things. You go to the highest level, it's fear or it's love. So, but those emotions want to be heard, because if we press them down, they've got to come out somewhere, which is what disease is within our body. But when we can actually, I call it, put it out, talk to it. What is it, the message you want to give me? And when you get it, and I think I've shared this story with you before, and if I have, I'm sorry, and if it's worth repeating, I'll repeat it. But I remember when I lost a contract, and I felt three emotions when I went for a walk the next day: betrayal, lies, and deception. Now, I spoke to my body about each one of those emotions because I felt it in my stomach. There was a pain in there. I needed to move it. So when I spoke to my body about each one of those feelings and emotions, it dissipated, because that part of my wanted to be acknowledged. So in acknowledging it, then I took it to the next one, which could be, let's go higher up, to forgiveness. I forgave the person or the people. I accepted what had occurred. There was a willingness on my part to take my life forward. There was an optimism about me. I could then set an intention about what I wanted to do, because when I asked that question on a higher level, which is then 5D, really coming to a higher perspective of love, I've gone, what is that intention? Where do I see the bigger picture, third eye of this experience? That's when I realized I could go overseas. So I set an intention then. An intention, and if one of people write that word down, intention is so powerful. Because the analogy I've used to you before, when you go into a coffee shop, you have an intention. You want to buy something. Today, I went into a shop. I wanted to buy a card. What's my intention? I wanted to buy a card. I looked around, didn't know what I'd find, but finally I found a card. And there's no big deal about the card, but I found it. It's appropriate. I manifested that. I manifested my reality by setting an intention and then taking action until I got it. We don't have to complicate things. It's that simple.
It is.
And the sad part about the universe, according to David Hawkins, and this is when I talk about the numbers, don't get caught up in the numbers. It's more just the relativity of the numbers in terms of comparing one to another. Like David talked about shame, the lowest one had been 20. He then took courage at 200. Now, courage, and I always link courage with vulnerability, but it's also about empowering. When you take action, you step into, and most people in the population are below 200 in the world. When you step up to trust, which is trusting yourself and trusting spirit, when you become optimistic about what you want to do, there's a willingness to take action. You move up from 250 to 350 up to 400. And when you get up into love, which is a loving nature that you've got in here, which is what's occurring on our planet at the moment, more people are stepping into that. And I don't want to sound this egotistical, but you're in that space. You're in that space of love. You're putting your stuff out there for the world. You're holding the frequency for those people to be drawn to you, to inspire them, to uplift them, to make them, to allow them to feel better. And if that's what you and I do, that's what we're here to do. We don't have to be on some whopping great big platform. Everyone has their own little part to play in all of this.
True. Rebecca asked, how do we shift from the low frequency to the high frequency?
Okay. First of all, is understanding the bigger picture of what your relationships, love the dog, by the way, Rebecca, understand the bigger picture of the relationships that you've had and looking what you needed to learn about those relationships. Forgive the people or the person. It doesn't mean that you forget and have to be all lovey-dovey with the person. Understanding the role that they played in the movie of your life. You see, you watch movies and you see someone playing out the role or the archetype of, say, the villain, and you know what's playing out, but it's only they're just playing a role here. So when you understand, because you took on that contract to have it with that particular person, so when you do that, you can take the learnings from it, let it go, make sure you acknowledge the emotions. You can't just push them down. You've got to bring the emotions up. And then when you start to forgive yourself, then life starts to shift because you hold a higher frequency. And you don't, and what happens is, I'm trying to draw this, you don't want the massive highs and the massive lows. You know, you're going to go like this anyway. You are not going to be on one level. The people call it about being, you're bringing your life back into balance. I don't talk about balance because in balance, there's no movement. It needs to be in harmony. So there's a movement, there's a flow. There's no flow when everything's in balance. So what happens is that you have an acceptance of what's happened in your life. There's a forgiveness of what's occurred in your life and forgiving yourself. You must forgive yourself because people say, well, why? Because you would have done something different. You didn't have the skills to do something different. You did the best that you can at that particular time with the resources that you had. And in that context, as soon as you start to forgive yourself, you transcend your consciousness to a higher level. I want you to look back through your life and look at your life and go, okay, well, I'm not too sure your age, Rebecca, but I'll be gentle here. Look at when you were 15, 16, 17. Look at when you were 20s. Look at when be careful here, when you went into maybe your 30s. All right? What has been the change over that period of time for you? In terms of your understanding, look back at who you were then. And you see, you can't go back to that person when you were 15 because you've outgrown that person. That person doesn't exist anymore. And the person you were 12 months ago doesn't exist anymore because it changes based on the people you meet, the thoughts that you have, the things that you read, the things that you watch, and the people you interact with will change. And you'll feel it in here. And people get upset when they leave relationships, but we outgrow relationships or the relationships grow with us. And we don't need to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Judgmental on the other people. Their time will come. We all evolve at our own time. You go out into nature and look at it. This plant grows at that particular rate. that plant will bloom in a certain period of time. Another plant will bloom 6 months later or 2 weeks later. Everything happens at its own time. And I see this particularly for women, where they get frustrated that they're evolving. That probably sounds wrong, but their consciousness is rising. Their spiritual understanding of life is changing, but their men are still stuck in another world, if you like to call it. And they get frustrated because their man isn't going with them. And then there are some men that really embrace this and go. It's interesting, just diversion here. I was really rapt the other, Trenya and I did a sound vibrational session this week. Majority of the people who were at that were men. I thought that was really good. Very, very nice. How does that answer How does that answer your question, Rebecca? Does that make a little bit more sense?
She says, oh, yes. Forgiving everyone else is easy. Forgiving myself is hard.
Okay, thank you for your honesty. So let's go back to forgiving yourself. As I said to you before, you did the best that you could at that particular time with the resources that you had. Otherwise, you would have done something differently. The other thing is stop allowing other people to tell you what you should or shouldn't do and how you should or should not behave. It is your journey. It is your experience. And everything that you experience is for you alone. Because every person's reality is different. We've got, 7 billion people on this planet at the moment, roughly. There are 7 billion different realities of life. And each one for that particular person is correct. And if you then go to astrology, you start to realize, because one of the things that I do when I look at someone, do a coaching session for someone, I look at their astrology and I start to understand what attributes they've got to let go of to make their life more easy. I look at what attributes they need to develop for their life to flow more fluently. Everyone is different. And until you forgive yourself, you can't have self-love. And in the having of self-love for who you are, your frequency rises and you'll attract someone at a higher frequency to match where you're at. It's a decision that you need to make. And when you can look yourself in the mirror and love yourself unconditionally, you watch your life change. You watch who comes into your life. You watch who leaves you. And leaving is there's no judgment in that.
Exactly.
Great question, and thank you for asking it.
We have an offshoot of that question.
Yeah. Okay. To be used. Okay. And heard confusing. All right. Lovely question. There are people that will abuse you because you allow them to. Now, you might put whoa, no, that doesn't make sense. You need to learn how to put boundaries around what you will allow and what you won't allow. That is the boundaries that you've got to learn. And the hardest part is you honoring yourself. There's a guy called Dr. John Demartini who I did a lot of study with. And I'm sorry for saying this, but I've got to put it this way because this is the way he expressed it. There is the law of lesser pisses. I'd sooner piss someone else off than piss myself off. And anybody who takes your energy away from you, meaning you feel it taken away from you, you have allowed them to step inside and take your energy away from you. You need to learn how to speak your truth. You need to stand in your power and say, this is not acceptable. And that's what it is there. And particularly people who have a very high frequency of love, of wanting to help people. And I've been guilty of that myself, where I want to give and I want to give. But I've got to realize the difference between one who's trying to take and someone who is really open and appreciable and got gratitude for what I'm offering. And I will consciously continue to give, knowing that I'm giving of my own free will and knowing that they're accepting it. But if I pick up very quickly that someone is just trying to use me, I very quickly put the energy shield around me, for want of a better word, and go, you're not going there, so I'm not giving you any more. And that is something that you have to learn. So by all means, keep caring for people, but be able to read the people for the difference between the ones who want to take. And that's where you have to learn to put the boundary there. I hope that answers the question, Michelle.
Perfect.
Good questions tonight. I like this. This is good.
Yeah.
Yes. Again, Renee, thank you. Lovely question. The hardest part is particularly family, because if you're an empath and feel what people are feeling, and I learned this the hard way. I'm going to give you an example. I remember there was a student I taught many, many years ago. We would have been in the, I don't know, this person won't be, well, they might be listening, but the people won't know who it is. In the 1990s, I was teaching this particular person. I felt there's so much an injustice in her family situation. And I stepped in, tried to help. And it's only years later that I realized that by doing that, I prevented her from learning the lesson that she needed to learn. Now, that didn't really answer your question as yet. There are people that are at low frequency, and sometimes we are in that situation to hold the light for them to see, because your light is in their darkness, if that makes sense. So you are shedding your light, but again, you're maintaining, you feel for them, but you understand this is their journey. This is their soul journey that they have to work through. So by all means, I send them love. I send them, hopefully they will get what they need to get for their higher soul's purpose, not mine, because they have chosen that path. They have chosen that, if I almost use the word archetype, if they've chosen that to learn, that's what they're here to learn on this planet. I can't take that off them. I have empathy for them. I feel for them, but they have to walk the path themselves. And that's a really hard thing to learn. But when you get it, it doesn't mean that you negate them or push them away. It means that you just hold the frequency, but you don't allow yourself to be pulled down. Because as soon as you get yourself pulled down, that's the difference between empathy and sympathy. You know, so some people want to cry and they'll sit there and I said this to a lady the other day when I was doing a reading. The mother was getting upset and crying, and her daughter wanted to give her a hug. And I just looked at the daughter and I said, do not give her a hug. And she type of looked at me and I said, what you're doing, you are anchoring in that sadness when she's in a low frequency. And I said, don't. So what she did, I got the lady, the mother, to keep talking about it and keep talking about it. And she got it all out. And in the end, I saw her physical body shift from this to this. There was a shift of emotion in her body. She got herself together. So there was a much more happiness about who she was. The relief, I saw her breathing much more easier and more relaxed. And at the end, I looked at her daughter. I said, now you can give her a hug. You're anchoring in this really positive state that she is now in. So those that have got low frequency around, you have to make a decision. Do I choose to stay with those people? And if they're family, that can be really difficult to actually able to work through that. And if they're people that you have to walk away from, that's the decision that only you can make. And sometimes the decision we need to make from a love point of view is the best thing that we can do for them, because you're learning again to put boundaries around you. And sometimes you've got to say to people, when you're talking like this or going like, I'm not interested in being here. And that's a tough love. I hope that's helped a little bit, Renee.
Right. There we go. Just information, I think, more than anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you, and well done. Just keep doing what you're doing. And what happens is, you see, people, you have trained people, and this relates to I think it was Michelle, the last person as well. You have trained people how to treat you over your lifetime. Now you want to treat them differently, and they go, what are you about? I could do this all the time before. Now you want me to treat you differently? You practice this with new people you've never met before, because they don't know your history. And when you do it the first time with new people, you go, wow, that worked, because people see you differently. So it's learning how to do that. But again, you're in the same boat. So many people, particularly those who have got in their numerology a 2, and I won't go into all that tonight. A lot of 2s have got a boundary issues, have been physically, emotionally, or sexually abused, excuse me. And they learn how to put boundaries around themselves. And that's your lesson this lifetime, is how to do that. And there will be people who will walk away from you when you start to put boundaries, because they know that they can't treat you like that. You are now teaching them how to treat you. And if they don't like it, bad luck. You're stepping into your power and you're taking it back. And when you've got your power within, you're then free to create and do what you want to do, because that energy is back within you.
Yes, that's awesome. And it is a tough deal when it's family.
Yeah, totally. And I can relate to that on some level. And sometimes I have made that decision to. I remember once I struggled for almost 20 years in a particular family relationship. And one day I picked up a book called Astrology of the Soul and read this person's astrology. And I realized that person's exactly who they needed to be. And in that moment, I let it all go because I couldn't change them.
Yep.
And that person was being who they needed to be by what their astrology was. And I needed to learn that. Once I learned that, all that stress just disappeared instantly. And I had all that energy then to focus on something else.
Yes. That's awesome. I'm looking at the time. We've already been on here for like 42 minutes.
Oh, that's normal, isn't it? Okay.
It is, isn't it?
Let's pull a card for people because they like it. I know they do. Okay. How many cards we pull today? This is a generic reading for where people are at the moment.
I just dropped one, so.
Yeah, you do that all the time. I like that. So what we're doing is we're drawing a card for what our audience need to hear today. Do you want 3 cards? I like 3 cards.
Sure, let's do 3.
Okay.
I'm just trying not to put my hair into the cards.
Okay, I've got 3. I mean, I've done my shuffle. 1, 2, 3. What have we been talking about all day or all night?
Boundaries. Stand your ground. I like it.
I love the way this works. This is what I find interesting when I coach people or I do a reading for them. I'll spend probably 10 minutes maybe just finding out where they're at in their life, whatever. And then once we've done all that, we do the cards. And the cards just support everything we've been talking about. Or they'll be face down and I don't see them deliberately. We'll be talking about something. We turn the next card and it relates to exactly what we've been talking about. And this is what this card's about. This card is about you standing your ground. So let's look at the picture here. Look at the stance that you've got. It's also number 7. 7 is about trusting yourself and trusting spirit. Trusting yourself that you're making the right decision and you're moving in the right way. And 7, trusting spirit is supporting you and everything that's occurring in your life is appropriate. So let's look at the picture here. You're standing with your hand on your hip. Your legs are apart. What is the main color in this I see is the white. Also, the orange and the yellow is the yellow or the orange is the warrior, W-A-R-R-I-O-R, which is the command center of your body, 3rd chakra, to actually speak, or not speak, but to express and carry out your instructions that come from your throat. That is the blue. The blue is the communication. The white is the truth of who you are. You're expressing your truth, and you, quote unquote, said you're speaking your truth there. Now, you will get tested on that because that's what people do. They'll go, whoa, what's happened here? But you will get tested, and those people will push until they know that you can't push you anymore. And that's why they're in your life, to teach you that. And when you get it, that's when you have absolute gratitude for that person. It doesn't mean that you have to love them, but you appreciate the role that they played in teaching you what you needed to learn. And then you move on to the next relationship. Same thing happens again. You go, oh, no, I know what this is about. Thank you. No, thank you. And you walk on. You think, oh, God, that was easy. So that's what this is about. Yeah. What was your first card?
The card I dropped counted as the first card, which is patience.
Yeah. Okay. I've always loved that card because what it is we plant our seed and we just wait. You'll see that the actual trunk of the tree is very thin. It hasn't grown strongly at this stage. Again, there's massive blue in that, which is telling people, which is about communicating what you actually want, and the green is coming from your heart. There's the giving and the receiving part. Yes. I can't even do that. Yeah, I do like that one. And then they also see there's a structure in there. There's four leaves. Yeah, you're right. There's the 4 leaves there, which is the structure you're putting into place. And I often find when I have that card that there's another one that comes up, which is the spiritual card, which is you've jumped a timeline, which you've gone into another timeline of your life. Okay. I love this. Look at this.
I love that card.
Now, but let's put it in the context of what we've got. Stand your ground. What happens? You transform. You become a different person.
Right.
Look at your hand, your left hand, which is the spiritual side. I think it's your left hand. Yeah, left hand. Your spiritual side is on your old self. See the person at the bottom? That's your old self. The green is a lime green. Lime green, to me, represents a new shoot. I've come off a farm, so it's a new shoot that comes out of the ground in spring. You are evolving into something new here. The woman there, her hair is all over the place. It's like she's just woken up. Black representing the mystery of the future. Her third eye has been activated. The wings, transformation, the angel, not the wings, they're like the butterfly. They are an orange color, which is saying you're stepping into your, and it's money, sexuality, it's you're stepping into your power. What do you want? This is a beautiful card. Those two go so well together. 3 and the 1 4, my eyes go to that. The 4 is about structure. You're putting a new structure into your life about how you want it to be. And you're looking up towards the future. You're not looking down. You've got your mouth open, which is like taking in a breath of fresh air. Okay, now let's move on with my life. These are 2 really, really good cards for what we've been talking about tonight.
Yes. You just said what my card is.
Yes. Which was?
Moving on.
Yeah. And I love that. I love that card because what that's about, and I'm going to pull it out so that I can hold it up as well for people to see. The thing that I like about that, there's the past, there's the future, and there's the present. What I like about it is we see the post. The post is the present. You've just moved through it. The back behind it is all the autumn leaves. But look what the cape is. The cape represents the wisdom that you've gained from that. Your foot is moving forward, which is right. You're taking action. The left hand is the spiritual hand, which has got the staff in your hand, which you've learned. And you have the lime green, which is the new shoots. And you're walking towards the light, which is the whitish part, which is true. 6 is about harmony. There's an inner peace there that you have. Beautiful card for you. I really like that. And it's a mental card. So you've done the work and you're going, okay, I'm ready to move on with my life. And you let the past go, but you have to move on. So when you meet those people again, you come from a different frequency and they know that they can't affect you because there's nothing being triggered in you. That's when you know you've moved on because you see them, they say something and it's like water off a duck's back. That's the beauty of it.
Exactly.
Any other card that you've got, or are we on to our last one?
I've got one more.
Okay. Well, I got this one.
You got one more.
Now, I'll give you this one too. This is a physical card. 4 we talked about before was structure, which is what the 4 is. But this is the passion that comes from your base chakra coming up through your body. You know, through the spine, it's a whitish color coming up through the spine, which is the truth of who you are. This person is brown, which represents to me being grounded. You're grounded in the decision that you're making and what you're actually doing. And the wall that's in front of you, it's got a whole heap of holes in it, which is like when you build a building. You build a building. You've got it there for a start. The foundation is there, but there's a lot more to come. And you're looking to the left, which is your spiritual side, with the awareness of where you're at. And then when you look at the summit there's 2 more, I call it projects or things that you're here to do. It's all blue and white, which is the truth of who you are and what you're expressing.
Awesome. What do we all want in our lives?
Love. Go on, hold it up. You're dying to
Victory and success.
Okay, okay. I'd like all the cards. They've all got a special message here. But this is so appropriate for what we've just been talking about. And I think when people get the essence of what this is, that your card that you've got is about, they will embrace it on a whole nother level. So I'm going to find it for them and then share it with you. So what we see here is the person who's climbed up a number of stairs. All right. Again, it's a 6, which is harmony, an inner peace that you've done the work and you've got to that particular top. I didn't find it. I'll find it again. So to me, there's 2 parts there. You've climbed up to the summit and you're looking to the future. And you'll notice that there are 2 mountains in that. One is behind you and one is in front of you. The one is behind is the past. Do you want it? And where are you looking? You're looking towards the future. In that context, the one in the future has the sun around it. So it's actually taking you to look forward. The person is off their knees. They're not there. But the trumpet that they're blowing is gold. So it's the enlightenment that the person has gained through this experience. It's a spiritual card, which to me is about what you needed to learn. You needed to learn from that. And we see the yellow, which is the enlightenment that you've got. Red is the action that you've taken. And then you've got the orange in the middle, which is you stepping back into your own power and be able to choose where you need to go. There's a green, your jacket is greenish color, which is to me about the love that you have for yourself. And you're starting to get into that space. But this has been a really good growth for you. You've got to that peak. The black represents the wisdom that you've gained from that. And it's like, wow, I've done that. So I feel the cards that we've drawn today are so appropriate for what those questions were that we spoke about. So I'm really pleased that that's occurred. Ironical, I drew this card earlier in the day from another deck, which is it's a major arcana card. It's emotions. And I think our emotions, that's better, the emotions rule our lives. But it's what we do with those emotions. They've got meanings for us. We can tune into them. We can take the message from them and then let them go. But they're a guiding force to help us from where we are in our life. That was one that I drew earlier in the day or tonight before we came. I thought, what message do I need to get? And I think that's very appropriate.
100%.
Yeah.
Love it. That's super cool. All right.
What should I do? Should I do a Rumi card now, or should I play a little bit of music for people?
Oh, let's put it to the people. Do we want a Rumi card, or do we want a sound thing? They're not answering. Oh, here we go. Music. Sound. Erin's answered twice. Erin.
I love you, Erin. Well done.
Up for either, says Odette. Sound, please.
No. I thought
Card
that might
says ocean.
I'll tell you what, we will do both. We'll do a little bit of sound. We'll only do probably 5 minutes. We won't do a lot, and then we'll come back and do a little Rumi card so that we don't go massively long over time. Is that awesome. People happy with that? Well, I'll go and set up.
Awesome.
I'll turn this off and then I'll turn it back on when I get there.
Okay. It's all good. You guys are all awesome, just by the way. Odette's getting some water. I'll have to refill my mug again.
She's learning about the water. I like that. Can Odette let us know when she's back?
All right. Does rum count?
Does what?
Rum count. Odette's back.
Well, if it works for you, so be it. You might have a different vision, but that's okay.
That's all.
Okay. Ready to go?
I'm ready if you're ready. Can't see you this time because your camera's a
long
way.
Do you want to see me? Okay. Okay, I'll set it up. I don't mind. I don't mind. Sorry. Yeah.
Don't be. It's all good. Yep.
I think that'll be about right. Oh, yeah, that's not bad. Okay. It's a long way away, but it will do.
Yeah.
What I'd like people to do, just very briefly, I just want you to close your eyes, put your hand on your heart, breathe in. Breathe in. Connect to the energy above. Connect to your higher self, to source. Breathe in, down through your crown chakra, down through all your chakras into your heart, and down into Mother Earth. Breathe in through Mother Earth, up into your heart, out through your crown, back to source. Again, breathing in from above, into your heart, down into Mother Earth. Breathing in again through Mother Earth, up through the balls of your feet, up into your heart, and up through into the crown and above. As you're relaxing, ask your highest self, your guides, your own intelligence, and set an intention for this healing, for this session. Understanding that sound is a frequency. Ask what you wish to release and ask what you would like to tap into. Because for something to be released, something needs to replace it. And when you're in that space, be open knowing that you are protected by your guides. Know you're protected by your higher self. That only those who are only interested in the highest good of your soul will be with you. If for some reason or some time through this session and something comes to you, make sure you ask, do you love me unconditionally? Ask that 3 times, you'll feel it within your body. If it doesn't feel right, tell it to leave. That may occur for some people.
That was amazing. I mean, it's always amazing. I don't ever want to actually stop you from doing that music stuff.
It's interesting. I really enjoy playing it like that. I mean, tonight was very gentle. It's like a story that's unfolding, and I don't know if you feel it, but it's wonderful just to be able to play that, and people will get their own, whatever they get, they will get. People talk about, what will I experience? I say, well, that's an individual thing. You'll experience what you need, and I'm fascinated by the responses that I get from people who will share their stories. Some go on massive journeys. Some have visions. Some have visitations from I call ancestral families, or from ascended masters. Or some, they just fall asleep and they're just gone, which I often say, because I've experienced that myself, where you're being taken away for your body to be worked on for you. And other people think, well, what happened? Nothing happened. Everything's individual, and it's perfect for whatever it is. So that frequency connects at different aspects of your body through that. So I said, it's something I really enjoy doing, and I find it fascinating every time I do it. The response that people give me. That I've had one lady that one day she just burst into tears, and I was playing the heart chakra, and it just triggered all this emotion that just came to the surface. And it's fascinating, and I just trust that whatever happened, people will happen. I'm just a conduit to do what I do.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Susan says, "Owl is my mother-in-law."
Okay, and look at the owl. Yes, no, I know. Okay, no idea. Thank you, mother-in-law. And look at you would have seen the owl at the back of behind me too.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that owl, how that came to me. Excuse me. I feel a deep affinity to it for an owl. There was a particular place in Victoria where I often ran into an owl, and I remember there was one on the side of the road once that I stopped to let it go move off so I didn't get run over. And another time, same area, I'm driving along the highway, and this car was right up my backside. It was at night time, and I deliberately slowed down to let it pass. And probably about 5 minutes later, an owl flew across that other car's window. It got hit, fell on the side of the road, and I deliberately stopped, or we stopped, and picked it up, and it just died in my hands. And I asked, could I take the feathers from it? And it said yes. And we took some of the feathers, not them all, but took some of the feathers and then buried it. And I felt this real deep connection with the owl, which is all about wisdom and having the courage to speak there, but do it silently. It's interesting when you look at a totem animal. And
yes,
I've come to a point now in my life where, and Wayne Dyer talked about this, you don't speak, you don't say anything, but when you ask, then you can speak. Otherwise, you come across as preaching. You come across as trying to be judgmental. Yeah. And that's there's a fine line in there.
100%.
I hear you. Well done. Butterflies are all about transformation. All about transformation. Look at the colors again. Pink and purple. Pink from your heart, purple from spirit. Wow. Thank you, Odette. What a journey.
It
What
is.
a journey. Okay. In that situation, Renee, make sure you ask that, and I'm going to use the word entity, make sure you ask it, do you love me unconditionally? And you must ask it 3 times. You have free will. You're a sovereign being of light. If it doesn't feel right, you ask it to leave. Or you can also ask it to come forward to you and then ask it, if you feel that, what message do you have for me? And when you ask for a message, it needs to resonate with you. We'll try that next time we're on. We'll play it again. We might even play it for a bit longer and see what happens. I love these responses because what's happening on a soul level, because we set an intention. Notice how we set an intention at the start for this and then to see where it's going. And that's what's happened for some people. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you, Renee. That's wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Michelle. I felt that too. That's what I played. I tried to play it, as a very, particularly the start, just nice and gentle, very relaxing. And then as I brought in the deeper bowls, which all relate to your base chakra, your first 3 chakras, just bringing that in gently. And the one that I played, which was around the bowl, was all about heart and above, just a connecting to there. So I love the feedback that I'm getting from this. Well done.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Rumi. What do you have for us today, Mr. Rumi? What can you share for our audience? These lovely people that have tuned in. I also want to say thank you to all the people who have tuned in, because without you, we don't have an audience. And you've trusted or seen something in both of us that we're making a difference for you. And that's all we can do. We just present, and if it's made a difference in your life, even if it's only for 10 minutes, that's wonderful. So I say thank you for that. This is one of my favorite cards. And I want people to understand the symbolism of these words. Because what have we been talking about tonight? We really, in one respect, been talking about boundaries, about standing your ground. We've talked about transformation. What is transformation? Transformation is the death of the old, to step into life which is new. And in one context, when you've given your power away, you're not being your authentic self. So to go beyond that and understand the death of what that is, you then step into life. This card, which is Rumi's number 1, 1 is new beginnings. 1 is creativity, it's confidence. It's a leader. And the card is beyond death, life. I think we couldn't have got a better card from Rumi for this. And look at all the light that's shining on this person. This is a beautiful card. So as I read it to you, I want you to really, really tune in to the inner essence of yourself as I read it, to let go of what you need to let go of in terms of past, because that is done, and allow yourself to open up to the future, which you will create based on your beliefs, the boundaries you place around how people treat you, and doing it from a loving perspective of loving yourself. The words are as follows. Footprints lead to the shore of the sea. Beyond that point, no trace remains. Footprints lead to the shore of the sea. Beyond that point, no trace remains. And the channeling of the words, that what that meant was, I am calling to you. Can you hear me? Listen. Within your heart, there I speak. My voice rings true. You are urged beyond what has been. The time has come. Lay it to rest now. This ending comes as grace to free you from all that you have known. For what you have known is now too small for your soul. Bear your uncertainty with equanimity. I am certain enough for both of us. Allow me to show you the light that you are, that burns within you, blazing angel of heavenly purity. I will unveil you to yourself, undressing your ego, casting aside its shadow, its layers, as tender as a lover, with unwavering attention upon the sacred body of light. You shall know yourself in truth, as pure, beyond all experience, untainted, even innocent, as a pure vessel stripped bare, ready for the divine revelation, as light, as life, as love. And here you are, an old soul at the edge of something you have known, at the cusp of an ending and a beginning. Perhaps you are already in surrender and falling in, or perhaps you are fearful and resisting as you greet your unknown destiny. Your death may be a choice to let go, to take a step into a new direction, to move house, to end a relationship, to change career, or step away from a religious or philosophical tradition, or a group or a teacher. Your death may not feel as though it has come by choice at all. It may be a sickness that leaves you feeling helpless, a relationship or other life circumstances changing when you wish with all your heart that it would not. Your transition through this death may be triggered by an inner feeling that you cannot quite pin down. Nonetheless, it powerfully propels you away from what has been and towards untapped possibilities, perhaps towards great confusion as you encounter life in a new way, feeling even somewhat unprepared and uncertain as to what lie ahead of you now. Now is not the time to fear or hesitation. Focus on what is becoming whilst honouring what is no longer to be. Thank you, Rumi. To all those people that felt that in your heart, I know you did. I felt it. I felt your pain. I felt the emotion rise. I felt the emotion in your tears, in your eyes. That is all massive confirmation that change is occurring. You know deep within the truth of what was shared. You know the truth that resonates within your heart. You know in one way that you have to have the courage, allow yourself to be vulnerable, to take the next step. You know, and you also know that you are loved unconditionally. Allow yourself to let the petals of the old to fall away, to allow the new to emerge, to become the new you that is so destined to be you. And in the process, you becoming a living example for your family and your friends. An aspect of yourself that is dying to come to the fore for the rest of the world to see. Your time has come. Your time has come. So be it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for your time and your energy tonight, Leon.
Pleasure.
I enjoy having you on here. You have such a vast experience and knowledge. And I get a lot out of it, so I hope everyone else does too.
There's on another level. This is what I love doing. And I really appreciate the feedback, because then with the feedback that comes, not that I need it in an egotistical sense, but I know what I'm sharing is then appropriate for the people, the audience there. And you look at tonight, we didn't know where we were going to go tonight because we didn't get the chance to really connect at the start. We had a rough idea. But this is where we have to learn to trust. And I think if I use those words, what we just said is what we're trying to share with other people, with our audience. We had to trust that it will guide us where we needed to go. We had no idea where this would go tonight.
Yeah.
You know, a Rumi card box is sitting right here because I just did a reading for a lady today. She picked it. And then you called, yep, let's go. And everything flowed. Everything was appropriate. It just built and built and built on one level and to another. And here we are an hour and a half later. I feel it. I feel it. It's incredible. And this is the joy. And if I use it this way without getting too carried away, this is the joy that I feel, being able to share this in a way that makes a difference in other people's lives. And you too will do it the same. You'll do it not the same. You'll do it in your way. You'll do it in your own unique way. You know, there's no point two people being the same because one's a waste of time. But you'll have your own unique gift, your own unique ability. And you need to share that at the right time, in the right place, with the right people. That's all you need to do. But step into it and see where it takes you. Blessings to everyone until we speak next time.
Yep. Thank you guys so much for being here with us. And I know Leon thanked you before and said almost identical to what I said last night. But if you guys were not here, we would not have anyone to speak to. It'd still be a great chat and it'd still be very worthwhile, but it'd be less people. So I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. I will be back next week. On Thursday night, it will be Terry Febben, the Above Average Medium. And then on Friday night, at this point, it is me. It has been planned to be me. And we'll see what that turns into, because it's all magical and amazing. And what happens now may not happen next week. We shall see. It's the nature of what we do here. So have a really great weekend. I will be out at Karela Golf Club tomorrow doing the Make-A-Wish Foundation High Tea fundraiser. So I'm super excited for that. But next week should be relatively back to normal. So have a good weekend. We'll see you soon.
Bye, everyone.
And thank you, Liam.
Pleasure. Pleasure.